sweeps have got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. These goddamn sweeps have got to go.
My name is Selena Trowell. I'm the Homelessness Union organizer of Vocal, New York. Yeah. We are a 20-year plus grassroots Black membership-led organization that organizes directly impacted people experiencing homelessness, victims and survivors of mass incarceration, the drug war, and those living with HIV/AIDS. We build political power among those people to push back against harmful policies that further oppress and marginalize what many would think of as the forgotten New Yorkers. Some of us still dwelling on the streets, some of us still seeking refuge in the subway stations, some of us crowded in congregate shelters with 16 to 20 people to a room, some of us lucky enough if we're in a single room, single occupancy room safe haven, some of us who have experienced the violence of encampment sweeps. Homelessness is not a monolith. Let's be very clear about that. There are many, many different experiences of homelessness, what people go through, and their unique needs. We get it and we agree. Homelessness is a business. But guess what? Mayor Adams, your product has expired. It's over. We understand and we got 40, 50, 30 years ago right to shelter. But it's your job to ensure that this becomes right to housing. Right to housing. This is on you. What will your legacy be, Mayor Adams? It is ridiculous to us, the amount of financial waste that is going on in these city agencies. We agree. But then if that is the case, why are we allowing these agencies to make $4,000 a month per person to hold them in these shelters, collect these checks, instead of just immediately assessing and giving vouchers? And I take it that if you're here too, you understand that this is a policy failure, and you understand who are the real experts. And it's the 92,000 homeless New Yorkers. That's right. Let me remind you, in 2017, Hope Survey recorded 18,000 people who were seeking refuge in the transit system. That was 2017. 90% of them at the time refused services to go into the shelter. They refused. That was 2017. At the time, though, they also gave out 12,000 summonses for quality of life offenses. So we are not going to buy that you in this administration are not continuing to perpetuate the criminalization of homelessness, when I literally just read a plan from 2017 that sounds eerily just like yours. We need to end these sweeps. Right. You do not get to define what is dignified, what is inhumane, when these shelters 50 plus years later are still failing homeless New Yorkers. And what is inhumane and undignified is when you take people, a diverse group of people, and make them work their mess out in a so-called congregate safe haven with 12 to 14 other individuals. You are not paying attention to what we have been saying. That's right. There is safety and dignity in privacy. Why should somebody be forced to work out their mess in front of somebody else who's working out their mess, who may be working out their mess, and who may be working out their mess. What gives you the right to redefine safe haven?
That's right.
We have called, and we made it clear weeks ago and years ago. It's been documented by our community members on the street. We want our own door and a key. If I had two people in front of me, towering over me with a gun on their hip and nothing to offer me, I wouldn't go into a shelter either.
Exactly.
And if you're out here toting the brochure with 14 beds in the room, I don't think I want that either.
Thank you.
So, and I didn't even mean to get this upset, but this is a crisis with urgency. I'm talking 92,000 people homeless. I'm talking administration after administration, they have failed us. We are your 92,000 homeless New Yorkers. We are. This is the face of 92,000 homeless New Yorkers. And so Mayor Adams, you said come see you. We're here. And we want to let you know that we get to define our humanity. We get to define our dignity. We get to say what it looks like to be safe and secure. And we've said over and over again, housing is the key. So in case you were confused on where the experts were, we're here at your steps.
I do want to say first, I know being mayor of this city is a difficult job. I do know there are some hard choices that have to be made. I do know that we don't always have the answer. But I do know the wrong answers are also not acceptable to the question.
That's right.
We are at a time in New York City and New York State where we're coming out of a pandemic, and we have the opportunity to fix problems that we've been trying to fix and deal with for decades. For too long, we've tried to deal with the symptoms instead of the issue. And that has never worked out well for us. And as we're coming out of the pandemic, to see us again trying to address the symptoms before trying to deal with the cause and the issues, it's hard to watch. It's hard to watch. I do know that people don't want to see encampments. People, as mentioned, are troubled when they see homeless New Yorkers. But we keep trying to tell folks, just because you don't see homeless New Yorkers don't mean we don't have homeless New Yorkers. And we should try to put at least as much energy and fervor in housing New Yorkers as we do in trying to shuffle around homeless New Yorkers all over the city. When I look at the encampment sweeps, thousands of New Yorkers, and they are New Yorkers, thousands of them, 5 accepted shelter, which means after the train sweeps, after the encampment sweeps, we still have a lot of homeless New Yorkers on the streets, and that is the problem. How can you hold up a budget because you weren't able to give $1 billion to a billionaire who hired a firm that hired your husband, but you won't hold up the budget because people are homeless? That should be a reason to hold up a budget. A reason to hold up a budget is because 92,000 people in the state are homeless. A reason to hold up the budget is because people have to sleep on the streets in encampments. That's a reason to hold up a budget and say, hold on, something isn't right here. The people who are closest to the problem have the best solutions.
Always.
And what I'm asking the mayor, if he hasn't already, I don't know, is to meet with these folks before you put any plan into place. Because there are things that you might not have thought about, like trying to give a voucher to someone that has no ID. We might have been able to solve that in a housing stand. By the way, some of the vouchers don't have enough money to meet the market. By the way, some of the people who are able to cobble it together are being discriminated against because the source of the voucher. These are all problems that are fixable if we want to fix them. And I'm going to tell you something, and the advocates will tell you, we don't always agree on everything, but we talk. and we have a conversation. And I learn from them so I can put forth policy that impacts in the best way. And they hear from me what some of the obstacles are. So we need to talk to folks. And I do understand New Yorkers. Now, we don't want to see these things. But I want New Yorkers to understand the people who are in those encampments are New Yorkers as well.
That's right.
So what are we doing about their quality of life? What are we doing about where they are going to live? We can solve these problems at the same time. And if we thought there was a point in time where these had to come down for many reasons, the one thing I can say is you should have first put forth a plan that can house them. You should have first put down a plan that can get the money they need or a safe place for them to go before you try to take down encampments. You did the last thing first, and that's the problem. That's what makes it harder. Someone makes money off homelessness. If they didn't, there wouldn't be that many homeless people, and we know that. This is hard to watch because we've seen these types of responses before, and they don't really help in the way that we want. What I do know is after the train sweeps, after the encampment sweeps, there's probably just as much homeless people on the street now as we thought before those sweeps happened. And we should be just as angry, if not angry about that, than the encampments in the first place. Of the people who sleep in homeless shelters today are children.
That ain't right.
Another large amount actually are working. Many of them work for the city.
That's right. Yeah.
Some of them have domestic violence issues. Some of them have mental health issues. Some of them have substance abuse issues. They cannot afford a place to live. New York City has surpassed San Francisco as the highest priced place to find an apartment. Being mayor is a hard job. It gets harder if we're not talking to the experts who know what it is that we have to do. This is still a sad day in the city because of how many homeless, unhoused New Yorkers they are. And everything that has happened hasn't changed that. And that's the travesty that we should all be thinking about today.
He knew he had a problem, should have cleaned it up then, when he was the borough president. Now he's out here street sweeping, putting people in more danger. That's a dangerous situation. I have been in and out of shelter my whole life with this city while holding a high federal HPD Section 8 voucher.
That ain't right.
I could be that person on the train one day and get swept up. You know? Because according to New York City, I am homeless now because I'm being evicted from a place where the Commission on Human Rights got me into and didn't keep up with putting pressure on the landlord. Now I'm living in a condemned apartment. Now he wants to evict me. I'm looking for new housing for almost over a year now. I would be homeless in a few months if I can't development when they told us they was coming to redevelop Brooklyn. And they pushing us out of the neighborhood now. It's dangerous in these shelters. These shelters ain't fit for nobody. We need permanent housing, not shelters with 14 people in the room where somebody could get up one day with a problem, an angry problem at the workers that's not doing their job to find us housing and beat everybody up in the room. I wouldn't want to be in a situation like that. You can't barely eat in those shelters. They don't have any conditions for you to cook. They don't have any conditions for you to have your own space for showering or anything like that.
You do not qualify for low-income housing because you're too poor, and I repeat that again. They sit you down and they tell you, Miss, you are too poor for low-income housing. That goes to our people that earn $100 grand a year, and the people that give them the housing get a 35-year tax break for doing such. I don't know anybody that fits in that criteria, even if you're working a full-time decent job above minimum wage. So when you go through now this sleeping in a room with 18 people or so, I don't know if any of y'all have ever had to sleep and worry about somebody standing over you, watching you as you sleep, and I don't judge the other residents, because anybody that's in those conditions sleep deprivation, food deprivation, you go into psychosis, and you know this. This is a fact. Excuse me, I'm sorry. So when they put you in the street out 8 hours a day, rain, snow, sleet, heat, when only any staff, quote unquote staff that may work there, that's when they're there. So when those people check in and out and don't see residents, if they exist, if housing exists, if no mental health, then you're locked in 8 hours a night in a room where the lights are out and you can't leave and everybody's sitting on their trauma. Who's doing drugs, who's doing this? The only solution that will work for a person to rehabilitate is independent rooms until they expedite the transition process into independent housing. Nobody needs to be in a shelter. Nobody wants to be in the train. When the train is the safest place, when you get to the point where you sit down on the sidewalk and decide I can't get back up again and I'm going to sleep here, we walk up to them and we kick them. They're not trying to be like that, and the humiliation they're going through, but that is their safest option, I promise you.
Fight, 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 fight. Housing is a human right. Fight, fight, fight. Housing is a human right.
I've been through it, formerly homeless. I've been through it. I don't understand why. Could you answer that question? That's all I have to say, because I'm fed up and I'm tired. Something needs to be done right, in a proper way. Have a town hall meeting, a panel, or focus group to talk with us. Talk with us. That's all I'm asking.
Don't talk to me about giving people vouchers. If you are in the streets and you don't have your documents, you don't have your birth certificate, if you don't have any of that stuff, a voucher is nothing more than a piece of paper that is not worth wiping your ass with. So do not talk to me about a voucher. Do not talk to me that people are getting help, that these sweeps is what the city needs. Yeah, it's a quality of life issue. I am so sorry that homeless people bother you. Okay? I'm sorry, but guess what? Their quality of life is that much more worse. If you have a key in your pocket, and guess what, people? I have keys in my pocket today, okay? My keys, when I applied for my apartment, an affordable housing apartment, 55 available apartments. You know how many people applied? 55,000. 55,000 people applied for 55 apartments. I won the lottery. I won the lottery. I don't need to win the New York State lottery. And the people on the streets don't need that lottery. What they need is something that's going to be affordable. You work for the people. The people got you into that office. You are not a cop. You are not a sergeant right now. You are the mayor of New York City. You don't like to be asked the same question over and over again because you do not want to respond to them. Well, guess what? We're here to tell you we're going to keep asking you the same questions over and over and over again until the answers change and actions are done.
Fight, fight, fight. Housing is a human right. Fight, fight, fight. Housing is a human right.